What's going on, the Australian Hustle? Hope you're having an amazing Thursday, the first day of the month, November. Hope you're well. I have my friend Jon. Welcome, Jon.
Hey, Al, how you doing, man?
Very well, very well. So I'm super excited to have you on today. I actually met, for those who are obviously watching this, make sure you let us know you're watching. Give us a hashtag live or a hashtag replay. I'm just going to go into the group and just make sure that we are actually going to the right group and whatnot. But, oh, awesome. We've got a couple of people watching. Awesome. Hey, Alex, hope you're well. All right. So I'm super excited to bring Jon on. Why are you laughing? You're just like,
You're always super excited, Al. I love
it. Super excited about life, mate. So you're like, whatever, dickhead. No, look. All right. So Jon is an absolute expert when it comes to Google Ads. How long have you been doing what? All right. Before I let you talk, I'm just going to give a quick intro. I met Jon through LinkedIn, reached out, found out that we literally work probably about 5 minutes away from each other. So we caught up for a coffee, whatnot. Jon told me a little bit about what he does with e-commerce, the businesses that he has on e-commerce, the businesses that he works with Google Ads, and a number of other different things. I was super impressed. And one of the first things I said is, mate, I have to get you on for an interview. I think it would be super valuable for our community and things like that. And hopefully everyone watching is able to take at least one thing away from something that they can potentially be doing, whether it's Google Ads or, setting up the structure around Google and things like that. So, Jon, take it away. Introduce yourself.
Cool. Hello, everybody. My background, I guess, is I got started with online marketing, digital marketing, whatever you like to call it, about nearly 5 years ago now. And I got started doing e-commerce for myself. So I started, my first e-commerce store then, absolutely green, didn't know anything, which is where a lot of people start with e-commerce these days. But, I started there and I, took to it pretty quickly, in particularly, pay-per-click advertising and traffic generation, particularly for e-commerce. So, I did that for a while. I found some success with e-commerce for myself. And grew that part of my business into multiple stores. And as I was doing that, and I started, interacting with a lot of groups online and things like that, and I'd be talking to people a lot about pay-per-click advertising, Google AdWords as it was called then, and all of that sort of thing. I started to get a lot of people asking me, "Hey, Jon, can you help us out with this sort of stuff? Can we pay you to do that sort of thing for us? Or can you coach us on that?" And so I kind of ignored that for a while, and I'd help people and I just do it for free, because I like to help people. But, after a while, it kind of, I was getting that so frequently that I thought, well, I could probably actually turn this into a business.
Yeah.
And so a couple of years ago, I started my own agency, which at the time when I first started was focused very much on e-commerce, pay-per-click, Google AdWords, SEO, and a couple of other traffic generation methods. Since then, it's kind of got a bit bigger and a bit broader in terms of the type of clients I take on. So I still do e-commerce, and, I love e-commerce, but I also do service businesses, B2B companies, all this sort of thing. So I help them to grow their revenue and their profits using Google Ads.
Awesome. That's amazing. And so obviously you've had a lot of experience, and can you just give everyone a picture of, like, obviously digital marketing's not what you've always done. You obviously got into digital marketing. Yeah. So tell us, I know the story, but do you want to share it with everyone else?
So, prior to getting into that e-commerce side of things myself, Prior to that, I had a decade-long career in industrial relations and human resources sort of field. And so nothing to do with digital marketing at all, right? When I started, I literally had no prior experience. I hadn't done any courses. I didn't have a career in it or anything like that. So I think what I tell a lot of people, and I've coached probably over 300 people now who are starting an online business of some sort. What I always tell them, I use myself as an example. Like, I literally knew nothing, and now I'm able to generate millions of dollars a year from myself and my clients combined with digital marketing, of various types. So that's what I love about it. Like, it's not rocket science, and if you're prepared to learn it and get in there and just put in an effort day after day consistently, there are so many ways to make money online at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I can totally relate to that. Obviously not through Google, but hey, MJ, we've got a wave from MJ. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you are joining, make sure you give us a hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, give us a hashtag replay. But I just want to touch on a point that you mentioned before. So you obviously went from the corporate world to digital marketing, and the way that you've obviously grown to a point now where you are generating millions for your clients and things like that, is all through testing and trialing and learning. And I think it's with anything in life, right? It's not just applied to Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever the case is. But I think here's the point that I'd really like to emphasize out of what you just mentioned, and that is that with anything that you do, and I'm specifically talking about digital marketing now, but anything that you do, you can't just try it once and then go, it didn't work, I'm just going to give up. That people need to work at it, and you need to be very realistic. I hear all the time, and I'll hand this back over to you after I give this example. I hear people all the time say, oh, Facebook ads don't work for me. And I'm like, oh, can you tell me a little bit about what you've tried? And they're like, I spent $15 to run a campaign over a week and it didn't get anything. All right. And then when I dive into it further, not only did they not spend enough money to potentially generate the couple of $1,000s that they were expecting out of it, they basically didn't set up a call to action. They didn't set up some of the basics that will enable them to close business or get at least the attention that they're looking for and things like that, right? And so just to come back to that point, it's all about testing, trialing, and things like that. So do you have any examples like that? Or
Yeah, look, I mean, before I ever touched a client's account or anything like that, I'd spent years myself spending my own money personally, and that's how I learned. I spent money on advertising, Google ads, Facebook, and I lost money, right? And probably more than I might like to or I should have, and that was because I was literally learning the hard way. So I didn't know anybody else who did this at the time. I didn't have any friends or family, and in Australia, it's not as easy to join networks in digital marketing as it is, say, in the US, where still even to this day, most of the people I network with around digital marketing are in the US. They're not even in Australia, right? So I learned it the hard way. But your point is great in that, I see it time and time again, particularly in e-commerce, people start a new e-commerce business. They get to about a month or two and they're like, I haven't made as many sales as I wanted, or I haven't made any sales. I'm just going to pack it all in and that's it. And that's such a huge mistake. It really makes me sad when I hear that, because it's just a wasted opportunity, right? Yeah. Like, a lot of people make the assumption that when they start an online business or they take a offline business and try to move it online, at least in part, that it's not the same as a more traditional business, that it takes less effort or less time or something like that. And, sometimes it does, but it's still a business and you have to take it just as seriously. If you want to make big dollars and big numbers online, one, it's going to take time. Yeah. Right? I'm sorry, you hear about every now and then some story of some guy who made $1 million launch over a weekend, right? 95% of those are BS to begin with, and sometimes it does happen. but that's like literally 1 in a million.
But
it takes time for
even
those
the 5% who are actually doing it, right? Who are genuine, they're not telling you about the years and years of grinding and the mistakes, the millions of dollars they may have lost to get to that point where they can, like that, make that sort of money. It's
absolutely.
possible, but it really comes down to the willingness, determination, and everything else behind the person, where they are, and then the reach and what they're understanding of, or how much they're willing to put on the table to get the results that they need.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you know, everything that you need to know to market online successfully, whatever it is you're marketing, whether it's a service or a product or a course or whatever, everything you need in terms of knowledge, at the very least, is within your grasp. It's online somewhere. You know, you've just got to be prepared to go out, find it, and then consistently implement it, or work with somebody who already possesses that knowledge.
Yeah,
you know, so that's. But you know, that's all it is. You know, I can't keep track of how many people I've spoken to who, you know, wound up an online business, and you go back and you look at their data and stuff, and you're like, dude, you know that if you had have stuck at this and just tweaked this, that, and the other, you know, in a month or two, you would have started to see that turn around.
Yeah.
But you just went and shut up shop and you know, now you've got to start again, sort of thing. Exactly. I see it time and time again, and it's you know, so but it's hard though, right? You know, when you, particularly if you're working by yourself, things aren't going well. You're lonely, you're by yourself, and you're just like, man, this sucks so hard. It's like, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning. I've been there, man. It's really tempting sometimes just to go, nah, I'm going to pack it all in, go back to safety.
Exactly.
And, that's going to be my lot.
And I'll just touch on that. And I think here's the thing is that everyone loves to talk about their results. Everyone loves to talk about their wins, their positives and stuff like that. What I love about what you said a little bit earlier as well is that you lost money, and that shows character, because it's not always about making money, right? Or, well, obviously when you're working with a client, sorry, I should take that back. What I should say is that it's not always about I don't even know what I'm trying to say now, but what I would like to get at is in regards to the mindset stuff and things like what you're talking about, like staying the course and things like that. When you are working by yourself and things like that, it's really important to make sure that you've got the right people surrounding you and the right people in place to pick you up when you are down and things like that. And the moment, like I was really excited when I first met you. And I don't know if you could tell, but like I was really excited because I was like, I've got a friend who I can see in person, and nerd, you know, and things like that. And hey, Alana, hope you're well. We're getting some waves, some more people joining us. Thank you for joining us all, guys. Which, by the way, we're obviously talking in bits and pieces. But if you have any questions for Jon in regards to Google Ads, advertising on Google, anything like that, e-commerce, Jon is an absolute, I was about to call you a know-it-all, but that's a really bad thing. I wouldn't call you a know-it-all. I would say that Jon has a lot of experience. He's attained a lot of results for his clients and things like that. So make sure you drop any questions. But what I was going to say and what I was getting at is that obviously your mind is so important, especially when you are working by yourself or when you decide to go on this path, this journey. You need to set the right people in place, and you also need to have the right habits. Like you need to know when you're ready to burn out and go for a walk, or, you know, have an entire freaking day off, even though you might have stuff on, even though you might have all this stuff on, all these things to do. But that's so much more important to do that than to stuff around and fuck around with the people that you are working with and not deliver the best of what you can offer to those people.
Yep. Yeah. Look, absolutely. Your mental health and I speak about this from experience and thinking back to when I first started trying to build businesses. It's really easy to miss. when you're putting yourself under stress and you're putting yourself in a position where your mental health and not just, you know, how your happiness or things like that, just your ability to actually make the right decisions, retain what you learn and things like this, it degrades the harder you push yourself. So the harder you push yourself past the point, your results actually start to drop and it becomes wasted. Like the thing I hate more than anything that I see perpetuated in the digital marketing space, and there's some big names that do it, and I can't stand them, is this notion, is the misuse of the word hustle. And I know it's in the name of the script. Like, people who are out there blowing on like, man, you've got to get out there and you've got to hit 18-hour days every day until you make it. That is such a load of horse shit. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, and any health professional will tell you this. Sure, it might work for some people. 80% of people that try that can be flat on their ass in a month, crying in a heap on the floor, and their business is going to suck. You need to look after yourself, right? Hustling is great. Don't get me wrong, but there's hustling smart and there's being a knob about it, right? 18-hour days, just sitting in front of a computer typing away. No, don't do it, please.
Oh no, and I think
I say that because I used to do that.
Yeah.
Right. I used to do it. Now I won't do more than 8 hours a day in front of a computer. No way, and even less than that most days.
Yeah, and I'm glad you actually brought this up as well, because that's what it is all about. Like, whilst it's important to work for what you want, I think it's also important to, like, especially, you know, some people do have commitments, some others don't. Like, I've got a family, 2 young kids and things like that. And you don't want to be pushing yourself to a point where you're no longer the supportive role that you're supposed to be. So for me, that's a father, it's a husband and all those other things. But you don't want to push yourself past that point. However, I think it's just really, obviously, as you mentioned, you know, everyone goes through it. Everyone's, you know, been there and continuing to just push themselves to get to where they want to go. But just remember that if you hustle too hard, that obviously you start to burn out. And I think the point is that you're running a marathon, and if you're going to run a marathon, you don't want to sprint like for the first month and then burn out and decide that it's never going to work. That you should, like you said, work smarter and implement some things, implement some strategies, bits and pieces that help you to do everything that you want to do over that longer period of time. And really just setting realistic expectations. So I'm just going to go back. So Lana's asked a question. What's the best e-commerce site for coach sessions, do you think? Currently using Squarespace and Big Cartel, and man, these boundaries when you work at home, especially the kids, is super hard. 100%. So we'll answer you. I'll hand it over to you. What do you think is the best e-commerce site for coaching sessions? I'm assuming what you're talking about is potentially running Facebook ads to potentially masterclasses or something along those lines. Do you want to just clarify, Alina, or have you got anything to add?
Is this to sell those sessions, basically?
That's what I'm assuming. Packages or sessions. She's really
yeah, look, I actually have a business based in the US that does sell things like coaching and courses and that sort of thing. And we run the front end of that website off WordPress, actually. So if you're selling digital or digital products or information products or services, I wouldn't use an e-commerce platform at all. And the reason for that is that, you know, platforms like, you know, as you say, Big Cartel, Shopify, BigCommerce, they're very much built specifically for selling physical products, right? So the way that their templates and all of that stuff is done is for that more traditional type of e-commerce. And so to actually design a really nice functional website, I think for things like digital products, for example, is actually harder with those platforms. Whereas on WordPress or something like that, you have a lot more freedom around how you can develop that site. And, you know, if you do need a more traditional checkout on that you can pair it up with something like WooCommerce or various other things. But I've always personally used WordPress, or you can use, I mean, if you've got a very simple process, you can use a funnel builder, of which there's a number of those out there. You have to keep an eye on some of them because some of them do really suck in a number of areas. So if I compare and click funnels, it can look great, but it performs like a dog. I've never seen a slower platform in my life. And if you're doing things like trying to rank your site on Google or do Google Ads or something like that, and you're slow, you're going to suck. So. But anyway, I'd say WordPress is my answer to that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so Alana's written agreed. Cool, thanks. But she's also mentioned in some of the previous comments, and Alina, mispronounced your name. So it doesn't, and I think you're referring to the previous comments. It doesn't work. The 16-hour day thing. In my experience, and especially as you mentioned before, Alina, with kids, with everything else that's going on, it can be very hard. All right, here's a really good question she's just asked. Do you think Google Ads can work for coaches?
Yes, and we were actually talked about this briefly before the call. So I'm glad. I think we were going to go here anyway, but
we're going to go here anyway. So thank you for raising the question.
So if you have a business that can generate revenue online, so whether you're selling a physical product, whether you're selling a service, whether you're selling coaching sessions, whether you're trying to get people to call your business for an offline conversion or a sales process, whatever it is, if you are trying to market your business online and you're not using Google Ads, you are leaving money on the table. I will 110% stand behind that statement. And I don't care what your previous experience is. If you think it's too expensive or it doesn't work, it was done wrong for you or you did it wrong, right? It's just this. I won't even take argument with this, right? That's my claim. Yeah, if you're online and you're not doing Google Ads, you're leaving money behind.
Wow, that's a big.
Yes,
call.
That's a very emphatic yes to that question.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So Alina has written brilliant. Clearly, I'm tuned in, and so let's dive into that question a little bit further because that's a large portion. Coaches, consultants, people within that sort of field, business owners, service providers. So, can you give us some? Like you mentioned that you've got you're working with a coaching business based in the US. So tell us some of the bits and pieces that you'd be happy to share that you can implement for, say, a coaching business. Yeah, let's focus on a coaching business since Alina's asked.
Yeah. Okay. So all right. So the reason why I say Google Ads can work for any business is that you need to try and understand the psychology of search, right? So online, when somebody has a question that they want an answer to, there is only one place generally that they go, at least over 90% of the time. They go to a search engine. They go to Google. A small percentage goes somewhere like Bing or something like that. And maybe some other people go into a forum or something like that they might be, or a Facebook group. But nobody goes into Facebook, for example, and goes up into the search bar and says, where can I find an e-commerce coach? Let's say. So I've done e-commerce coaching before. I used to market that service, right? Nobody does that. Nobody does that anywhere else. They all do it on Google, right? Yeah. And when somebody is seeking an answer for a question or they're looking for something very specific, that's where the money is, right? Yeah. So what you need to do, though, to be successful on Google, because if you do it wrong, it can be really expensive, right? Google can be like a sniper rifle or, an old blunderbuss sort of gun, which just shoots out.
I love this analogy.
And maybe none of them actually hit what you're aiming at, right? Now, if you go the blunderbuss route, you could throw away thousands of dollars a day, right? Yeah. No doubt about it. But you can go the sniper rifle way, And if you can be so super targeted on Google that it's unbelievable in a way that you can't on any other pay-per-click platform, in a way you can't on Facebook ads or other things like that. But to get super targeted, you need to understand a lot about the audience that you're trying to reach with your ads, right? And so, and remembering as well that Google's not just, people think of Google AdWords, they think of search text ads, the little ads that appear above your search results on the Google page. But Google Ads is more than that. It's the display network. It's YouTube advertising. It's Google Shopping if you're in e-commerce. It's remarketing. So when I talk about Google Ads, I'm actually talking about all of those. Yeah. Right. And some of those will work more for other businesses than others. But basically, if you're doing that sort of business, so you need to think about, well, who's my target audience for my coaching service, right? Like, what are they seeking coaching for specifically? Yep. And then work out, and there are online tools you can do keyword research and things like that. Work out what are those people likely to be putting into Google that is going to lead them to the point of either becoming aware that a coaching service exists, or are they specifically searching for a coach already? So in my example of e-commerce coaching, which I used to market, people on Google search for e-commerce coaches. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even realize this, but after a while I caught on and I started advertising on that, ranking for it organically, and search terms around that. And so, and you can get much more granular than that into it, just e-commerce coaching. So one, you need to understand, having a really good, target customer profile. And it's not just about keywords they use either. On Google, you can interest target with certain Google ads. Okay. You can demographic target. You can do all that stuff. So having the complete, picture of your customer, which if you're running an online business, you should have anyway. Of where they are, who they are, how much money they earn, what they're interested in, what sites they visit, what YouTube channels they're likely to look at. Exactly. All of this stuff will help you get really targeted with Google Ads and do it in a way that's profitable. Yeah. Now, if you're running that sort of business, a coaching business, most people these days get into that, and because it's sexy at the moment, mostly because of people like you, Alan, they'll go straight to Facebook ads, right? And that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. I use Facebook ads too, right? I got no problem with Facebook ads. They, if they're used correctly, once again, they can be awesome, right? They can be awesome. But think about it, right? Let's say that somebody sees your ad on Facebook, and maybe they click the ad and they go away. They don't convert on that first visit to wherever your Facebook ad's taking them. Yeah. Or maybe they just look at your ad, read the copy on your ad, but don't even click it, right? But they retain what you were selling or what you were marketing or the name of your business. Now, when they want to recall that, they can't just pull that ad up again. No. They might wait for it to show in their feed again, which it may or may not do, depending on how good your ads are. What they're going to do is they're going to go over to Google. Yeah. And they're going to search for you on Google, right? They're going to search for your business name on Google. They're going to search for your service on Google. Or some people will even retain part of the copy, and they'll make some keywords around the copy from your ad on Facebook. And so if you've got nothing happening on Google, then they're going to get somebody else's results. And if somebody else is marketing on Google a coaching service similar to yours, they get the dollars because people convert off Google. They're not going to go search on Google and then go back to Facebook and then kind of hope that something happens for them, right? So if you're doing Facebook ads, and this is something I do a lot, probably in the last 12 months with clients who are running Facebook ads only, we take an approach over to Google, and the return on that ad spend is gigantic because their Facebook ads warm the customers up. Yeah. Right? And get them in the buying mood. And then they're going over to Google and making the conversion. So, I'm doing this with a lot of e-commerce businesses at the moment who are doing pretty good numbers just on Facebook ads. And then we're multiplying that on Google because there's all these people searching for their store. searching for their products, searching for the name of their products on Google, and they didn't even know it, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, if you're doing that and you're not doing Google ads, you're actually putting money in your competitors' pockets.
Yeah.
Right? Because if your product isn't on Google and somebody searches for it and a similar product exists, they're probably going to see the similar product.
Yeah.
And the time it's going to take them in their mind to go and actually try and find the right product again. People are lazy.
Yes.
Lazy. Always remember this with your marketing. People are lazy. If you don't make it super simple for them to convert, they don't convert, right?
I'll have to back up. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So if you're doing Facebook ads, get on Google. But really simple things to make Google work for you. If your business has a name and you're marketing somewhere, online, offline, I don't care where, once again, people are going to be searching for you on Google. So at the very least, you should be running an ad that targets your own brand name.
Yeah.
So that when somebody goes onto Google and they search for your company, the very first thing that they're going to see on the screen is an ad for your business.
That is real. Yeah.
All right, you may show the organic results.
Yeah.
Sure. You're doing a good job there. You should rank for your own business name if you've got a website. But the ads always show before the organic results. Now, if I have competitors, you know what I always do? I advertise on their brand name.
Yeah.
Because I know that some people are stupid and they don't do these things. So I'll advertise on their brand name. I can't put their brand name in my ads because that's against Google policies. Yeah. But I will still be the first thing that people see when they search somebody else's brand name. And if I put a really juicy offer in that ad, I'm going to get some of their sales. I'm going to start cutting their mustard, man, and it's great.
100. And all right, so there's a number of things I just want to recap to make sure that the audience, they're obviously listening, intrigued, and all those other things. I'm going to take a recap. But just on that last point, I already know someone who what do? I think they do some sort of machinery repairs, mechanical, something to do with mechanical for machinery, right? And they have a big name competitor who's number one in that market. And one of their keywords is their name. They don't put that, like you said, they don't put their name into their ads, but it's a keyword. And that is their top result for their Google ads. So that's just to back up what you're saying. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to just track back and just basically revise everything you've just said so far. So first of all, Google ads, in comparison to anything else, whether it's Facebook ads, etc., it's all about understanding the psychology and that people are looking for answers. So it's about knowing what answer are you solving for your customers. So that then ties into, understanding your customer, understanding what problem you solve directly, and finding the specific keywords to use, as well as the keywords that potentially your competitors are using. And even brilliantly, like as you just mentioned, what I'm not even doing right now is using Alan Howle or using your own brand, your name. And I think that's really important. Something that, full transparency, obviously I'm not doing, that I need to get onto straight away, because that's where I'm going as well. So that's brilliant. So Alina has also said in the comments, this is great. This is one of the things I want to help people with when I coach them. Smiley face. Awesome. But she's also asked, she's also said, sounds like it's about knowing your target. That's 100% correct. Knowing your target, knowing what problems you're solving, what questions they're asking more specifically. And then last, great, but best way to learn to use them, ... question mark. Probably your favorite question to answer, John?
Yeah, look, the tempting response to that is always, hand me over some money and I'll teach you. But, I'll not be that.
No, No, but all right.
Look, the good thing about Google Ads, right? The good thing about Google Ads, I'll say this, is Google Ads have been around for a really long time, right? They've been around, for more than a decade, I think. I'm pretty sure. A lot longer than, a lot of other current popular marketing methods. So there is a really vast amount of knowledge about them that is free online, right?
Yeah.
Whether there's a whole range of blogs out there that are just devoted to search engine marketing, but have huge amounts of content on Google Ads, like Search Engine Land, and things like that. So there's a lot of great free information out there. There's loads of YouTube channels on it and all that sort of thing. It's not hard. There's a ton of books about Google Ads. Like, it's really not hard to learn about Google Ads. And one of the things I love about Google Ads is that their interface and the way it works is quite simple. So it's easy to pick up. It's way simpler than Facebook ads, for example, right? It's quite simple for people to pick up and learn the basics. The trick, though, and what I really love about it is that it has that simplicity, but when you get right into it, it's actually, it can get quite complex to master because there's so many little things that you can tweak and do to really get down to the best results. So, look, I don't think, if you want to learn Google Ads, don't go out and pay somebody $2,000 to do a course on it. There are no good ones for that money. If you just want to get a general education in Google Ads, go to Udemy and search for Isaac Rudansky, Rudansky, I believe. He has a course on there, Google Ads course. It's probably usually about $19. It's super in depth, and it's long been regarded as one of the best Google AdWords courses out there. So, if you want to get specific on something like e-commerce or something like that, there are very few good online courses. But if you just want in general, like you've got a service-based business or something like that, seriously, that would be what I'd recommend. Because as far as value goes, you cannot beat it.
No, that's exactly right. And we just had the comment, there's no substitute for experience. And that's exactly right.
It's true, but you've got to start somewhere. And that's exactly what I say, like you're never going to learn the really advanced stuff with Google Ads from a course. Because if I wanted to put everything I know, it would be like into a course or a book or something. It would literally be like War and Peace. The course would be more than 100 hours long, and you wouldn't get to the end of it. You'd want to jump out the window or something. It'd probably be really boring. But if you just want the building blocks to get you started so that you can start getting that experience and you can get started and still make money, then that stuff is available online quite easily.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jon. So we'll start to wrap up anyway. But Jon may be too polite to offer what he does and things like that, but I will for him. Jon, as he mentioned before, does coaching on Google Ads, e-commerce, and a whole stack of other things. So if you do have any questions, interested in working with Jon or finding out more, I've personally already referred, about 5 or 6 different people to Jon. Very, very friendly guy, knows what he's talking about, and will tell you straight up, what you're looking at, and very straightforward, has a lot of integrity. And that's why I constantly refer business over to him, because he represents all those things anyway. So before we do leave, which by the way, guys, if you still do have any questions or anything else, make sure you drop them below. Okay. But my last question from you, Jon, we talked about digital marketing, your mental health and all those other things, all right? Google Ads, all those great things. So if you could go back and tell your 20-year-old self anything, give an advice, tell them whatever, what would it be?
20-year-old self. Okay, so just as reference to answering that question, I started my first own business, which I mentioned, when I was 31. And so but before that, I'd always wanted to do work for myself or get started, but I was always just too fearful of doing that, or just didn't think that I knew enough to do it successfully.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't have the faith in myself to do it when I was young, when I was in my 20s or around 20. You know, I thought it was something I wanted to do, but I just, for some reason, I just couldn't get across the line to actually doing it. So my advice to my 20-year-old self would be, you don't need to know anything to get started, and just get started, because it's never going to be right. Yeah. Like you're not going to get that point where you think this is the perfect time to start a business. Yeah. There is never a perfect time. I mean, this is an old cliche, right? But it's true. Yeah. There is never a perfect time to take any leap in your life that you could potentially take. You know, the people that we all hold up as these great role models of online business or business in general, they didn't just wait until it felt right. Yeah. They just dived in. Like when they started, you know, the big names in the world, you know, your Steve Jobses and all this sort of nonsense. Yeah. It wasn't like some broad epiphany that they had to start a business and blah, blah, blah. They just thought they had an idea, and, you know, they just got started and made it up as they went.
Yeah. Can I give it? I want to give an example to that. Everyone knows about your Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, you know, all these great people. But let's look even in our own backyard to Steve Irwin. I love Steve Irwin and everything that he represents. Obviously, God love him. He's obviously not with us anymore. But how, like, his passion, his energy, everything that he represents. In conservative, what am I looking for? Conservation for the environment. Conservation for the environment, looking after our wildlife, looking after, you know, the animals and all the great, amazing things that we have in Australia. And like at the end of the day, the only thing that was really making money for him is obviously potentially appearances on TV, as well as the people coming through to Australia Zoo, which was obviously going back into conservation and things like that. But if you create that brand for yourself through your passion, through something that you love, everything else is just going to work out. And look at the platform he's set up for his family now, not only with Australia Zoo, that's based on the Sunshine Coast, but everything, like, you know, their kids are famous and followed through with Dad's passion for you know, wildlife and all those other things. And I love referring to Steve Irwin, not only because he's an Aussie, but I feel like I've got somewhat of the same passion. Talk a lot, love people, love things. You know, at the end of the day, I feel like I just relate a lot. But it's a really, really good story about someone who just loved what they do and were willing to fail here and there to make a name, build a legacy, and all those other great things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And I mean, yes, and that's the big part. I mean, you know, everyone talks about failure all the time. I mean, that'd probably be something else I'd say to my 20-year-old self is it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
You know, I hate how failure has been adopted by the Silicon Valley crowd and misused once again. Another term that's overly misused, fail fast and fail forward. Such stupid advice. But like you shouldn't force failure. I mean, it's got to the point where certain people in the tech world are like, oh, I'm setting out to fail because failing's so awesome, apparently. Like that's how extreme. But that's stupid. But there is nothing. You will fail if you do business. At some point, you will try something that doesn't work, and that's fine. Like, that's not your aim, but if it happens, it happens, and you can learn from it, and you should, and all of that sort of thing. But I was really, you know, when I was 20 years old, when you're 20 years old, you care so much about what other people think of you, right? I was so shit scared that people would think I was a failure if I tried something and it didn't work. Whereas now I couldn't give two stuffs what anybody thinks, apart from maybe my wife, because she'll slap me around the head if I fail too bad.
Exactly.
But, you know, like anybody watching this video or anyone else, I don't care what you think about me. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. And that's part of, you know, one of the things that contributes to success in the business world is, you know, being able to manage those sort of fears.
Yeah.
You always maybe have them a little bit, but it's how you manage those fears and recognize them and just put them to one side and say, yep, I know that's there. I felt it. Now I'm going to move past it and do that thing that I want to do.
Yeah, I love it. And I can relate. I'll finish on this, and I can relate to what you've just said, because I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, John, but I used to go around Bible bashing kids at school because I thought I knew everything when I was in school and things like that. But in a sort of like it's a really funny way of looking at it. Like it's what got me to where I am now. Like I had to fail. Like I had the biggest wake up call. I still walk around, like see people that I used to go to school with who, you know, if they're not thinking it in the back of their minds, sometimes I am. And that whole, like, you know, just getting over the fact that, you know, what's happened in the past is the past. It's done. And all those other things, like, that doesn't have to contribute to what is now, what I'm doing now, and things like that. It's done. It's dusted. And the more, like, the only person who's worrying about it is me. And it's just up here. It's just a mental roadblock that you just need to overcome. And the moment you overcome it, you just are able to express and be the best version of yourself, which in most of the time you've got something to offer to your community, to the people around you, to your kids, you know, to your mate down the road. You know, it doesn't, you know, you don't have to have a Facebook group. You don't have to have a massive audience. Sometimes you can just be a mate or a friend to just one person and make the difference anyway. So feel all warm and fuzzy after that. All right, mate. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And guys, I hope you've gotten something out of this. I know I have. One of the things I'm definitely going to be doing within the next couple of days is looking at Google Ads for Alan Howle. So no one fucking get on it. Look, I'll have to have a look at it and see who else is doing it at the moment and things like that. But yeah, that's something that I'm going to implement. So thank you.
No worries. Pleasure.
Awesome. All right, guys, if you do have any questions, want to reach out to John at all, he's a lovely, friendly guy. Make sure you reach out to him in the group. Just ignore his profile picture. We'll work on that a little bit later, John.
Yeah. I'm like the anti online guru. Right? Yeah. There's a few of us out there, including some big names that everybody knows, but I just don't do it. Like, I make tons of money online, but I don't toot my horn about it. My social profiles, I always answer my messages, right? I do tons on Facebook Messenger, but I almost never touch my Facebook profile.
We'll see.
So,
I'm going to work on it.
We'll see. You might convince me yet.
That's it. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. Like I said, if you have any questions or anything else, make sure you drop them below. Love you and leave you. Go get it.